Distinguished guests, media friends, and audiences, good afternoon. Welcome all of you all to the strategic planning of the 14th Five-Year Plan and the opportunities for Hong Kong. I'm the MC Kang Dongxian. This seminar is organized by Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, Hong Kong Coalition, One Country, Two Systems Research Institute. We really appreciate the support and full range support provided by China Resources Group, and we also thank the production unit Loop Media. This seminar will be conducted online and offline. We thank 16 organizations from Hong Kong, mainland, and other overseas media organizations, which are Bloomberg, South China Morning Post, China Daily, CTTN, iChongqing, Tencent Video, Shenzhen Satellite TV, Hong Kong 01, Phoenix TV, Taikong Pao, Wenhui Pao, dot News, ATV, Digital Media. We also thank Hong Kong Coalition, the Facebook accounts also provide live streaming services of our seminar. So first of all, let's welcome Mr. C.Y. Liang, Vice Chairman of the 13th CPCC National Committee and former Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR. He will also introduce all the important guests of today and give us a welcome speech. Mr. Liang, please. Distinguished guests, why we hold this seminar? The 14th Five-Year Plan and the long-range objectives through the year 2035 has just been published, and it has opened up our new journey to begin our modern society development. So the organization of a seminar is a concern of our national development, and also as Hong Kong people, we should care more about the national development and know how can we more proactively integrate into the national development and to seize new opportunities and having new driving forces. Our nation has a vast territory and has a rich resources because of differences in different regions. Actually, there were different situations for us to know. Actually, we don't know much about the national development, so it's very necessary for us to overcome something that we don't know, to solve the problems that we don't know yet. So this seminar also provides simultaneous interpretation in English and also being broadcast through various media channels so that many people can know the stories about the 14th Five-Year Plan. And we also invited the relevant national people from the government and also experts. They are Mr. Hu Zucai, he is the Vice Chairman of National Development and Reform Commission of PRC. Mr. Wang Zhigang, Mr. of Science and Technology of PRC. Mr. Yang Weiming, a Standing Committee Member and Deputy Director of the Committee on Economic Affairs of the 13th CPPCC National Committee. Mr. Xu Ze, he is the President of the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, and Professor Liu Yuanchun, Vice President of the Renmin University of China. We also invited various experts from finance, trade, and commerce circle to give us various analysis. We have also present Mr. Charles Li, former Chief Executive of Hong Kong Exchange and Clearing Limited, Professor Ni Mingxuan, Provost and Chair Professor of Computer Science and Engineering of Hong Kong UST, Mr. Raymond Yip, former Deputy Executive Director of Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and Dr. James Wong, Research Director of Bay Area Hong Kong Center. Welcome you all. Thank you, Mr. Liang. So before we start the speech, we invite these guests from online and offline to have a group photo together. Thank you all. So now let's invite our first speaker. He's from the National Development and Reform Commission, Mr. Hu Zucai. He's Vice Chairman of the NDRC. His topic is to open the grand blueprint of constructing the modern socialist country. Honorable Vice Chairman C.Y. Liang, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good afternoon. Entrusted by Mr. He Lifeng, Director of NDRC, let me briefly introduce you the 14th Five-Year Plan. These outline of 14th Five-Year Plan and the long-range objective through the year 2035 has already been approved and endorsed by the 13th NPC. It is a big issue for the people of whole nation and is meaningful. The outline has clarified the guiding principles, the main objectives, the major strategic tasks, and the major policies during the 14th Five-Year Plan for its economic and social development, and has provided a grand blueprint for us to comprehensively build up a modern socialist country. It is the common action plan for the people of all ethnicities to embark on the new journey. This 14th Five-Year Plan is also a first 5-year for us to, after completing the first centennial goal, and to ride on the tide to build up a new journey toward a modern socialist country. These, we attach great importance to the compilation of the 14th Five-Year Plan, and the outline has been lasted for 2 years and is based on the Central Committee's fourth five-year plan on national economy and social development. And it has undergone 3 stages of basic concept, outline framework, and a draft outline. We have draw the experience and the suggestions of experts from all areas and all sectors of life. We have also consulted the public, and it has pooled the group wisdom and the experts' opinions and the grassroots experiences. So it is a process that has the spirit of a democracy and has pooled the group wisdom and reflected the scientific policy making. It not only shows the wisdom of the party and also people of all ethnicities, but also highly unified our national determination and the people's willingness. It has 19 articles, and it has 3 blocks mainly. The first is on the environment development, the guiding principle and the main objective. The second is on 17 strategic tasks, and the third is on the guarantee of implementation. So I will introduce the 4 major areas of the outline. First, we should understand the essential meanings of the outline. There are actually 3 priorities and 1 high-quality development. We should uphold high-quality development. The new development stage is actually an accurate judgment of our development milestone. When we embark on the new journey of the modern socialist country construction, we are faced with very profound and complicated changes, both internally and externally. And we are facing with a change that has never seen before for 100 years. So now our country is developing from a middle-income country to a high-income country. So the development has shown a series of new features. So we should establish new goals and tasks according to these new features. The new development philosophies is a guiding principle of our modernized construction. Philosophy should be the basis of our actions. Since the 18th the National Committee of the CPC Party. The philosophy of innovation, coordination, greenness, open and shared growth has already been deeply rooted in people's heart, and also it is also a consensus for all parties. So we should realize high quality, more efficient, more sustainable, and a safer development. The new development paradigm is the path of our choice based on our economic situation and economic modernization. We should construct a new dual circulation system of both domestically and internationally, and we should force a very open domestic and international dual circulation. This is a major strategic choice based on our geopolitical and economic environment, and also our competitive advantages. So pushing forward high-quality development is also the theme for our socio-economic development in the coming stages. We are still the largest developing country in the world. Development is our first and top priority. Our major contradictories has already undergone deep changes. So the key issue is focused on the quality of development. So we should put our priority on improving the quality and efficiency of development. Second, we should grasp accurately the target indicators of the 14th Five-Year Plan. Based on the strategic arrangement of the construction of a modernized socialist country, the outline has outlined the long-range goals through the year 2035 and has put forward the major objectives through 6 aspects. To quantify and these goals, the outline put forward 5 aspects work, namely economic development, innovation drive, welfare of the people, green and ecological development, and the safety, the insurance guarantee. And 20 indicators have been made. This also shows that we will meet the demand of the new development philosophy and to connect with the long-range objectives through the year 2035.
And at the same time, we have catered to uncertainties. The plan mainly sets its indicators in very innovative ways compared to the past. Firstly, we have a qualitative expression for targeted economic growth. And we set the target indicator as within an appropriate range. And we would raise those targets annually in light of actual conditions. This is the first time since in 5-year plans. This made full use of the internal external trends of the 14th 5-year plan in order to create major innovations. It shows that GDP is not the be-all, end-all. And it also make sure that the economic growth and the potential economic growth maintains consistent growth. And at the same time, we know that these 5 years, both internally and externally, there are rather great uncertainties. And not setting a quantifiable target is more beneficial towards the proactive and easy dealing with various types of risks. But this does not mean that GDP no longer matters. In our yearly work, we may adjust the yearly GDP growth targets targetedly. And secondly, we choose that the funding we put in terms of social research as a major indicator. And our target is set as annual growth at above 7%, which would be stronger than the 13th 5-year plan period. This shows that we have put modernization as the key part of our entire development. And according to the 7% estimate, by year 2025, our research funding would exceed 3.7 trillion. And on top of the 2.4 trillion basis, that's a 1.3 trillion increase compared to year 2020, which is a great deal of increase. And during the actual work, we try to obtain even better results. And thirdly, there are a lot of welfare issues as indicators. And amongst the 20 major indicators, 7 of them have to do with welfare. It's over 1/3. And it's also the highest proportion in various 5-year plans. These indicators covered income, employment, education, medication, senior citizen care, and child care. And number 4, this is the first time we have set security targets. For example, we would like our production of food to reach over 650 million tons and our integrated energy production capacities to reach 4.6 billion tons of standard coal, which truly exemplifies the integrated development and security demands. Number 3, we must implement the major strategies and policy actions. The plan has raised 17 fronts of strategic commissions and important policy actions in order to solve the difficult and major issues facing the country. We care more about the important state affairs and the key small affairs. Firstly, we must insist on driving innovation to accelerate the development of modern industry systems. And we take the plan's innovative drives as the most important plan. We emphasize that technological independence is an important strategical support for national development. We must join forces with innovative technology and complete the digitalization of our technology. In terms of technological innovation, we would improve the state innovative system to build state-owned labs in order to implement major state technological projects. We must strengthen our basic research. This is the first time that we increase the funding up to 8% for basic research. And in terms of product industry development, we insist on upgrading industry and modernizing industry chains in order to strengthen our industry base to properly fight the core technology battles. We also push for the upgrade of manufacturing industries such that the strategical new products account for 17% of our GDP. In terms of digitalization, we will build a digital economy, a digital society, a digital government, and strengthen the key applications of innovative digital technologies in order to create the market conditions, in order to create orderly and proper policy environment. Second, we must strengthen our internal market and to build a new development. The plan proposes that we must insist on expanding domestic needs in order to merge that with our overall strategy to offer demand-side management. Accelerate the building of this new paradigm. In order to facilitate the internal domestic circulation, we will go through allocation, distribution, and consumption in order to break through the obstacles prevalent in the market economy to facilitate the healthy circulation of domestic economy. And around that international and domestic dual circulation, we would increase the amount of quality imports and increase the quality of our exports. And we attract more foreign investment, and we protect and facilitate foreign investments in order to support foreign investment, strengthen their high-end manufacturing, high-end tech, and traditional manufacturing industries. We must expand the investment space in order to facilitate new infrastructure which will benefit livelihood issues, and after adjusting the structure which will adjust to the urbanization and the waterworks of our nation. Thirdly, we must facilitate the 5 major strategies of urban and rural area cooperation. We must propose a high-quality development of state-owned land and support the entire system. We must think about how to implement our rural strategy in order to increase the agricultural quality, efficient, and competitiveness, in order to implement our rural building actions, in order to combine rural and urban areas organically and healthily, and to make sure that the agricultural population can move to urbanization in order to strengthen the group of cities and the city metropolitan area, and gradually increase the level of management for city management, such that the urban area, the farmland area, and the ecosystem area, the 3 major areas, all work in coordination. And we must push for the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei Green Movement and the Changjiang Economic Area Green Development in order to proactively ensure the construction of the Greater Bay Area in order to make sure that the Yellow River ecosystem is properly protected and sees quality development. We continue to implement our in-depth development strategy to develop the western side of China in order to help and also to promote the development of northeast part of China and to create a new developments in middle of China and to encourage the eastern regions to accelerate their modernization. Number 4, we must reform and open up in order to increase the development's drive and activity. The plan proposes that in order to strengthen the state management and modernization drive, we must push for a better work between market forces and the state government in order to implement in a wider region in many more areas and a deeper opening up. We must implement our deep-seated changes to state-owned enterprises in order to improve the economic status of civilian-owned enterprises, to inspire various type of market-oriented forces. We would create high standards for our markets in order to protect all of these property rights of these various civilian organizations. And we would implement this marketers reforms in order to provide for a negative lease for market access. We would continue to in-depth opening up the products and the key factors of our markets in order to steadily regulate and manage and standardize this type of opening up, and also to improve the situation of foreign capital in China in order to comprehensively improve the way we treat them. And we also have a testing drive in Hainan area, creating a new free trade port in order to push for the BRI's high-quality development and to proactively participate in the global rules-based changing and reforms in order to push for humanity's growth. And also, we must push for green development in order to facilitate humans and nature to live on site together. The plan emphasizes that lucid waters and lush mountains are invaluable assets. We must build a beautiful China. And in terms of increasing the ecosystem's quality and stability, we will manage our mountains, our rivers, our farmlands, our forests, our lakes, and our grasslands in order to implement major protective infrastructure work on our environment. In terms of improving the environment, we would keep on improving our pollution issues. We would keep improving the quality of air and water and effectively manage the risks of polluting our soils. And we would establish a plan to make sure that our carbon emissions peak by year 2030. And we support the key industries in key locations to drop their productions by 18%. And we hope that the green energy, which would account for 20% of our total energy production. And in terms of accelerating the green change, we would comprehensively increase the efficiency we make use of our resources and to create a green economy in order to make sure there's a high quality economic growth which protects the environment. Number 6, we will continue to care about livelihood issues to create shared wealth. The plan has a lot of focus on comprehensive development and development of citizens' welfares in order for the development fruits to be shared more equally to all people. And when it comes to educating our population, we insist on standardizing the public education and to increase the quality of our education in order to in-depth implement the Healthy China initiative to provide comprehensive protection throughout our citizen lifetimes. We must proactively react to the aging population issue in order to facilitate the balanced growth of our population. We would continue to improve public services to improve on our shortfalls. And we would prioritize employment to expand our employment capacity to improve the job qualities and continue to improve a multi-layered social security system to implement the comprehensive coordination of pension funds. We would improve the allocation structure in order to increase the income of the people on the lower rung ladders of China. Number 7, we must coordinate development and security in order to build a higher, more safer China. The plans firstly mention the holistic approach to national security. We must strengthen building our safety systems and capacities. We must strengthen our economic safety security, and we have implemented a food security strategy in order to ensure secure supply of sustenance. We can basically provide ourselves with our own food, and we also have implemented a security strategy of our energy resources. We increases our stability of energy production and increase our risk management capabilities. There's also financial security strategies, and we make sure we could hold on to avoiding systematic risk. This will fully increase our ability to protect the public security and to maintain the stability of society. And also, the plan has raised in over 102 major policy items in the areas of innovative drive, product development, rural areas, cultural development, ecosystem, and welfare issues. So we must have those projects follow the plans and the money follows the projects. Number 4, we must comprehensively ensure that there's one country, two systems, and to maintain the prosperity of Hong Kong and Macau. The plan has specifically set a chapter aside for Hong Kong and Macau, and in those relevant chapters, they actively considered that to linking that up with Hong Kong and Macau's development, which clearly shows that the central government will not change its direction in supporting the Hong Kong's and Macau's prosperity. Overall, we would implement one country, two systems. Hong Kong people administer Hong Kong, Macau people administer Macau, and a high degree of autonomy. We insist on governing Hong Kong according to the law, to protect the constitution, to protect the basic law in order to establish the constitutional order, to establish the central party's comprehensive governing powers on the Hong Kong SAR, to implement the laws and enforcement mechanisms which maintain and protect public national security and national sovereignty, in order to avoid and guard against and deter external forces' interference in Hong Kong and Macau affairs. From the perspective of Hong Kong's prosperity, on the one hand, we consolidate Hong Kong's advantages, we increase their role as a hub of finance, of ports, of trading and international aviation, and we strengthen their position as an offshore renminbi hub and an international asset management hub, and also its functionality as a risk management hub. We support the construction of an international innovative technology hub, an Asian region international law arbitration and conflict resolution service, and also the regional IP trade center. We support the Hong Kong service industry to develop to a high added value and high end direction, and we support Hong Kong's development into a China and foreign cultural and art exchange center. On the other hand, we also support Hong Kong's integration into national's development, especially the Greater Bay Area.
I'd also deepen the trade and innovation cooperation between mainland and Hong Kong, and to deepen and further expand the financial connection with mainland and Hong Kong. And we should also emphasize on the high quality development of the cooperative platform between the two sides. We also should provide convenience services to Hong Kong people to live in mainland, and to provide supportive policies and measures for them to live well in mainland. Also, we should enhance their the patriotic system and their national consciousness to build up the great future. The blueprint has already been made. A mission has driven us to fight constantly. We believe that under the leadership of President Xi Jinping and also the Central Party Committee, under the concerted efforts of people of our nation, our blueprint will turn into beautiful reality. We welcome all circles of life in Hong Kong to grasp the opportunity and to play their strength and to participate in the implementation of the outline. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Hu. So let's watch the video given by Minister of Science and Technology of PRC, Mr. Wang Zhigang. His topic is Pursuing Innovation-Driven Development, Speeding Up Technology Self-Reliance. Distinguished Mr. C.Y. Liang, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very happy to attend the seminar today and to introduce the 14th five-year plan and the technology deployment under this five-year plan, and also discuss with you how Hong Kong can find the new opportunities under the 14th five-year plan to grasp the top priorities, to play the strength of Hong Kong and various topics, so that we can have a grand opening and good start of the 14th five-year plan. Hong Kong is the hub of innovation and also a hub of financial services. It has great power in science and technology, and also very good geographic position. In recent years, Hong Kong SAF government has put forward innovation and technology development, and is also exploring the new growth points, and they have reaped very good results in the past years. I also have the opportunity to visit Hong Kong and discuss with Hong Kong SAR government and institutions and peoples from the industry. I also deeply feel that Hong Kong friends has the sense of mission and a sense of responsibility to further develop Hong Kong and integrate into the national development. Hong Kong is a very important part for our 14th five-year plan, the mission and the objective. Distinguished guests, President Xi has emphasized that the world is experiencing the very deep reform that has never seen in 100 years. The history and the reality has told us that we should grasp the opportunities of the new reform, and we should find our path and also the method for development. So seeking to science and technology is the absolute way. Now we are experiencing the deepened reform of science technology, AI, quantum technology, blockchain, and other new technologies are developing, and we are having the coordinated share and high intelligence development. Disruptive reforms are emerging one after another. So these new technologies are changing the world constantly. The technology is disruptive and is penetrable in all walks of life, and it will bear a very deep and profound changes in today's world. Science technology has never affected the future and the destiny of the nation as never before, and it is also have a deep impact on the well-being of people's life. The new industry and the new mode of science technology will push forward the prosperity of the world, upgrade the industrial reform, and will also bear upon the improvement of people's well-being. So we are now building up the well of society, and we should ride on the tide and to embark on the new journey to construct the modern socialist country. So this is the first year of the new journey. And our country is still in the very important strategic threshold of development, but we're faced with very severe challenges internationally and domestically. We're facing with new changes. Not long ago, the MPC and the CPC has already endorsed and approved the 14th five-year plan and the long-range objectives through year 2035. It has illustrated our blueprint of development for the following 5 years and 15 years, and it has provided very important strategic deployment of national development. The outline has emphasized that innovation is very important for the overall plan, and it is a strategic support and pillar of our development. It is the top priority of all the aspects of tasks and work under this outline. So we should improve to forge the new driving force, and it is the consensus and the action of all people. So we should stand at the new threshold of development, construct a new paradigm of development. Science and technology is shouldering an unprecedented important role. So we should implement the strategy of innovation-driven strategy. We should face meet the important demand of the country and the demand of the people. We should meet up the demands of the development, and also rely on the science and technology innovation. Push forward the primary research and application research. Integrate all of them to build up a more efficient and a more open science and technology system. We should not only rely on the human resources, but also rely on the whole comprehensive development of every aspect of the development. We should emphasize on the 8 areas. First, emphasize on the strategic science and technology force. Accelerate the development of strategic scientific forces with laboratory in micro and nanoelectric technologies, and establish the modern energy system. Establish a group of national laboratories and the key laboratories to have a very efficient laboratory system. We also should push forward the universities and institutions to optimize their resources allocation. The science and technology forces of Hong Kong is a very important part of the national system. We will greatly support Hong Kong to establish a national science and technology platform to coordinate the integration and development of and collaboration of the two sides, to establish a comprehensive science technology center, innovation center, and also invite the Hong Kong parties to participate in this building up of this platform. We should also focus on the important industrial line and supply chain, and also provide the supply power of the key essential technologies of our country, like the circuit, narrow science, biotechnology, deep sea and deep ground exploration. And we should implement forward-thinking and strategic national important projects. We should also draw upon the experience of fighting COVID-19 and the risk control of biosafety, pharmaceutical research and development, and also important technologies in the basic technology. Third, we should emphasize on the basic research and development to build up a 10-year action plan of research, basics research, increase the resources and financial input, and increase the ratio of the basic research input from 8 to 10%. And we should also establish some basic research center, promote the cross-discipline integration of different basic disciplines, and provide long-term and stable support for the research teams. Also cultivate the youth researchers, improve the the level of sharing, and also the innovation power. Fourth, we should emphasize on the entrepreneurship of enterprises and their innovative powers. Should form a system that is driven by the enterprises and led by the market. Should input more R&D resources and input, and provide favorable policies for enterprise to provide more investment in R&D. Now it's 76%. And we should unite the universities and enterprises to forge partnership to shoulder the key national research topics. And also we should smooth the financing channels, further enhance the agency system for financing in this regard. The next one is that we should build up the talent system and we should have a very efficient talent evaluation system, implement a more open talent policy, introduce the talent and make good use of them. The Hong Kong people has a very high enthusiasm to innovate, so they are they're very proactive in participating in the science and technology innovation of the nation. So we encourage universities and institutions from Hong Kong to participate in our innovation system and development. And we should enhance exchanges between the two sides, encourage the Hong Kong youth to study and learn or live in Hong Kong, and also provide more opportunities for them to participate in the Greater Bay Area's development. A sixth area is that we should deepen the key regional development. Establish the Inno Center in the Greater Bay Area, and to build up the capacity of the innovation regional centers. According to the Innovation Index, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, Guangzhou is ranked the second of the innovation clusters around the world. So we will further build up on the Greater Bay Area Innovation Center and to deploy the human resources and information technologies to realize a cross-border flow and coordination. We will forge Greater Bay Area to be an innovation highland in the world. We will also deepen our science technology reform, improve the system, and improve its planning and operation system. We push forward the integration allocation of human resources, capital resources, reform the project management, and to give more ownership to the research teams. And we also should push for some competing mechanism for people to explore more and to be task-oriented and have classified evaluation systems. We should further improve the evaluation system, give more IP protection, and also to safeguard and to drive more patents in invention. We should also push forward mutually beneficial international collaboration system, focus on some global issues, and enhance the coordinated collaboration and research R&D of people around the world.
And in terms of our research, we should face global scientific research funds and to support them in establishing scientific organizations in our country, and to help us establish our own scientific committee. Hong Kong is naturally open, that's its advantage. We would further expand the central government's funding initiatives to Hong Kong in order to support Hong Kong's scientific organizations and scientists collaborate with the mainland Chinese scientists in order to perform major missions for the state. Hong Kong's scientific capabilities are a major important factor in the state's overall development paradigm. And in the future, under the guidelines from the central government to Hong Kong, we will promote collaboration between mainland and Hong Kong in order to adequately leverage the unique advantages Hong Kong has in order to build a good, innovative environment to accelerate the establishment of international technological innovative centers in Hong Kong and the GBA in order to accelerate our technological independence and build a great technological nation and do more contributions on that front. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Wang. Right now, we would like to invite the Standard Committee member and Deputy Director of the Committee on Economic Affairs of the 13th CPPCC National Community and the former Deputy Director of the Office of the Central Committee for Financial and Economic Affairs. His topic will be Basic Logic of the 14th Five-Year Plan. The Honorable C.Y. Leung, guests, distinguished guests, good evening. I'm very honored to be invited to this seminar of the 14th Five-Year Plan. The previous two speakers have already explained a bit about the 14th Five-Year Plan, and For me, I will talk about the history and the context of the 14th five-year plan. Oh, so in the 19th five-year plan, we passed through this new advice, and it was approved. Then the two are jointly formed, and then we have achieved the 14th five-year plan. There are a total of 8 proposals. In the future, for the 15 years, it is a blueprint for our development. It is important, and it has deep-seated impact. And actually, for every five-year plan or every era, it has their own logic and own context. I would like to propose some examples. For example, in the 10th five-year plan, after the Asian financial crisis, the economy was not doing very well, and there are internal contradictions as well, and there's especially a regional conflict and contradictions. So in the 10th five-year plan, we did some tactical and strategical changes. So that by then we proposed the development of the Greater Out West and the rural development plans. And in the 11th five-year plan, that was during the era of globalization. And even though trading was doing very well, but there's a lot of industries. A lot of these heavy industries are polluting. High light pollution and high energy consumption, and we consumed a lot of energy. That's why we're trying to improve our overall system and establish a scientific perspective of development. And we want to create an efficient, energy-efficient society and an environmental-friendly society. So in the next phase, because that was during the era of financial crisis internationally, and our exports are weak. So that's why we have a new strategy. We proposed the 2 synchronicities in order to increase the domestic needs and to simultaneously develop our own economy, and also to increase productivity. And in the 13th five-year plan, in the previous phase, because we are facing the Asian financial crisis, so we tried to stabilize things, but that created a lot of systematic contradictions. There's a financial problem, revenue, and pricing. On all 4 aspects, they are all dropping. But the leveraging rate is also increasing. So that's the 4 decreases and 1 increase concept. So we proposed a new development philosophies to create a demand-side structural change. And in the 14th five-year plan, the situation we face has changed profoundly. Internationally, everybody knows that this is a context of change unseen in the past 100 years. So this is also a once-in-a-100-year impact. When we're talking about the past few five-year plans, our target is basically surrounds 2 aspects: the moderately prosperous society. At first, we say it's moderate prosperous life, and then later on, we change it to moderate prosperous society. So basically, we have achieved the modernization. And under this context and these conditions, we definitely have to rise up, have to development, but America is trying to drop us. That's why you can see that that's the international status quo right now. So we face these risks and face these unprecedented challenges. But if we handle these unprecedented challenges well, then this would actually be an unprecedented boon for our state, for our nation's development. So we should learn to progress and develop in a world full of uncertainty and to find new opportunities. That's the context of the 14th five-year plan. And under this context, how do we execute the 14th five-year plan? So there are these 3 new ideas to establish in the new new stage of development, to implement new development philosophies, and to build a new development paradigm. So in the terms of the new stage of development, right now, we have established a moderately prosperous society already. And next, we would fully implement a modernized, socialized nation, and we try to strive towards that goal. And there's a lot said about the development philosophy. It's about our philosophies which guide our new phase of development. This is a question of theory and of implementation. That's actually a basic pathway which we could achieve modernization. How could we achieve new targets in this new phase? That's the question it's trying to answer. And in the 14th Five-Year Plan, in terms of its advice and its plan as well, there were a lot of these new targets or missions. Why do they propose these things? These all come from the three new ideas. It is a result of. Let me give you an example. For example, the shared wealth aspect has seen concrete progress. So that's the fundamental characteristic of our Chinese characteristics modern socialist country. In the first few plans, that this was there was no concrete specifications of that modern socialist country. But in the 14th Five-Year Plan, there was. And if in this new paradigm we cannot reduce the gap between development and wealth, if we cannot solve that problem, then it will be very difficult to realize our dream of healthy development. This is, of course, the problem of wealth allocation, of income allocation. So that's why during the 14th Five-Year Plan, we must work upon the basis of that plan and to achieve those ends, to reduce the gaps in many different fronts, especially in terms of direct gaps between different people's incomes. And the other missions actually are just complementary stuff to the major mission, so I won't go into the details there. So firstly, I was going to talk about the socialist country with Chinese characteristics under the leadership of the party. Why is this very important to the great rejuvenation of the Chinese people? Actually, in order to achieve the great rejuvenation of the Chinese people, that's the great dream in modern times in China. So the Chinese Communist Party has been established for over 100 years. Fundamentally, it leads people out of unity. And it reflects the history of constant struggle towards development of our people. Starting from the first generation of leader Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai, they have already done a lot of very difficult exploration on how to do that. And by now, you can see that there's 3 steps of our development. So from 1980 to 1990, our GDP would double, and we would solve the livelihood issues of our people. And after the 6-5 and 7-5, the 2 5-year plans, our GDP has doubled. That has been completed. That's what I've said. The first few 5-year plans are all surrounding the idea of moderate, prosperous lifestyle. And starting in the new century, we must take 50 years of time to achieve a medium-high income nation. And in the 14th Five-Year Plan, our target set in the 14th Five-Year Plan is actually originally proposed to Comrade Deng Xiaoping. And in year 2002, in the 16th plenary session of the parties, so after these 3-step strategic targets have been implemented, we are talking about how to move on in the next 20 or 30 years. The first 20 years and the second 30 years are in 2 different phases. The first 20 years, we will focus our strength into building a moderately prosperous society in all respects. And in the 19th party sessions, when the moderately prosperous society is achieved, is within our sights, we once again make plans for the latter 30 years of development. And the latter 30 years is developed into 2 phases, the first 15 years and the latter 15 years. The first half, we have to basically achieve modernization. And then we will use another 15 years into, by mid-22nd century, we will achieve our target of becoming a great nation culturally and militarily and technologically. So that's actually the first 5 years in our second 100-year journey. So in other words, this 14th year plan plans for the beginning of our next 100-year journey, and it sets the tone and the position of our next steps. So Xi Jinping's economic thought, one of the most important aspects was proposed in the 13th fifth-year plan. And it was proposed, it's actually the new development philosophy is a systematic theory. It answers the target, the drive, the methodology, and the path of our development. These are all theoretical and practical questions. It describes the Chinese Communist Party's stance on politics, on values, and on their development. And ever since the 18th party session, Party Secretary Xi Jinping has raised a lot of important psychologies, including strategies and including thoughts. So we must have a people-centric development. GDP is not the be-all, end-all. And the markets would decide how things are allocated, and lush waters and lucid mountains are invaluable assets, so I won't go into the details. And we must make changes to the demand side, and we must develop high quality and modernized economic systems in order to address the imbalances and to build a new paradigm of development under a new philosophy, new thought, and new strategy, and to gradually, systematically achieve Xi Jinping economic thought. And amongst which the new development philosophy is at the core of what we do here. Right now, we will talk about the new paradigm of development. So right now, the world faces a context of change unseen in the past 100 years. And in face of the second 100-year journey, and in order to achieve our targets, how do we start a new paradigm of economic development that decides our pathway towards development? So our target is that by year 2033, our GDP per capita would reach a medium developed nation level. That's an important indicator for basically implementing the modernized version of socialism. So there is a quantified target which we want to achieve by 2035, which is our GDP per capita reaches medium-high levels. So in order to achieve this target, I think our total size of our economy, or GDP per capita, should double by year 2035. In other words, that would be an annual growth of 4.73%. I think that's possible. That depends on industry and planning and but all of these potential conditions for growth, we must convert them into actual growth. We must plan in terms of our internal consumption, our external consumption, our consumption, and our allocation and our technology. We must make plans for production and our space, and both internal and external adjustments and optimizations must be done. If we still hold on to the old paradigm of development, then our economy would succumb to gravity and start sloping downwards. So, if a stable growth is not something that could be achieved without new policy. That's why we need new policies. So, in terms of making a new development paradigm, we must understand the 6 keywords.
Yes.
The first one is paradigm. So we should establish a paradigm that will adapt to the new stage, new philosophies without any further stimulation, so we can have some intrudness development. And the growth should be a match of the potential growth rate. So the focus is on the new paradigm, rather than the dual circulation. And for circulation, it should have a smooth production, allocation, expenditure, which are the main 3 main areas. And also, should emphasize on production and should coordinate between production and allocation and expenditure. So there will be a circulation between these different factors. And so for circulation, there should be no obstacles among every link. So we should clear all these potential obstacles during the circulation. So this is not simply an issue of logistics or supply chain. So the third part is about opening up. We should promote an open domestic and international dual circulation. So we should continue to be a good world's factory and also the world market. Of course, now we are the important market in the world, but we are not the largest market in the world yet. So the focus is the circulation, a dual circulation should be promoting each other rather than single circulation or internal circulation only. So the importance of policy is the mutually beneficial promotion of dual circulations. So we should, based upon the domestic big circulation, and also realize technology self-reliance. But of course, it's not that every piece of technology and product should be done by ourselves or from the scratch. It's not that meaning. So we should further deepen the opening up. The fourth one is the integration, because the development of the new development paradigm is based on the whole nation. Every single region or industry or enterprise is already an important component of the national development paradigm. So every region should better participate in the new development paradigm. So it doesn't mean that every industry or every enterprise should pursue some fancy or high-end industry. For example, like chips. It's not what we mean. Every region or industry or enterprise should have its own positioning and play its own advantages. So it also has the meaning of being proactive. When we say that we construct a new development paradigm, governments should play the initiative and acting proactively in this regard. It's not only relying on other market mechanism to be formed. So how to construct? The key is on reform. The government should push forward the reform of existing old paradigm. So like the circulation obstacles actually are the attributable to the old system or old mechanism. So the 14th Five-Year Plan has put forward a new method that we should stick to the systematic philosophy. We should further integrate the expansion of internal strategy and deepening the supply side structural reform, and to integrate these two into the development of the new paradigm. So we should not only respond to the financial crisis. Actually, it has a richer meaning compared with the old time. So we should also further deepen the supply side structural reform. This is very important. We know that the priorities may also have some new changes accordingly. So constructing the new development paradigm has various meanings and priorities. Personally, I think there are 7 aspects. First, cultivate a complete internal demand system, improve the resilience of a supply and demand system. Actually, the supply-demand systems is very resilient now, but still there are some problems. I will not go into details for sake of time. So we should further enhance its resilience of the supply and demand resilient systems. And second, we should expand residents' expenditure and consumption, increase its ratio in the national demand. And actually the internal demand has played a bigger role in the national economic development. But when we look further, actually the ratio of investment is increasingly much higher than others. So we should focus more on the expansion of residents' expenditure. And rather than only investment, of course, we should improve investment in the meantime. But expenditure is also important. The third is to increase the residents' income and increase its ratio in the national income. Because expenditure is a component of and a result of income. As income increases, the consumption will also follow. So increase in residents' income is one of the priority. The fourth one is to enhance technology self-reliance and increase its ratio in the progress of technology. We actually, in the past, more rely on the import and further innovation based on the imported technology. So, looking ahead, we should emphasize on the self-reliance and we should guarantee the security of a supply chain and the supply chain and also the supply side reform. And the fifth is to deepen the supply side structural reform and to increase its adaptability to the demand structure. If we look further, that our supplying system is not really adaptable to the development demand. So we should make it more compatible with each other. If there's not sufficient supply, then the demand will not be met sufficiently. The sixth one, we should improve the factor of urban clusters, the cohesiveness of the various factors in the urbanization, and to increase the ratio of regional economy and population in the urbanization development. Increase its ratio. We have seen that many urban areas have increased its economy, but the population increase is not developing accordingly. So there is a disparity. And the seventh is to insist upon high-level opening up and to improve the smoothness of internal and the international circulations. We should further improve the strength of the internal big market to make it stronger and to further integrate into the international market and to smoothen the circulation of domestic and international circulations. So for the sake of time, I will not elaborate upon those points. So thank you very much. That's all. Thank you, Director Yang. So next we invite Mr. Xu Ze, President of the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies and the former Deputy Director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the State Council. His topic is Opportunities Ahead, Further Integration into the Greater Bay Area. Distinguished Mr. C.Y. Liang, distinguished guests, and friends from online and offline, good afternoon. Today, Our Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies co-organized the seminar once again with the Hong Kong Coalition and One Country, Two Systems Research Center last November and this January. We conducted seminars on cooperation with Hong Kong and Shenzhen and innovation technology development. We had received very positive responses. So today we have invited officials from central ministries and experts to meet online and offline to further discuss 14th five-year plan and the opportunities for Hong Kong. We believe that it will let you know more about the essence of the 14th five-year plan and to provide clearer blueprint and guidance for Hong Kong to integrate into the national development landscape. And I would like to take this opportunity to talk about some of my personal opinions about how to grasp the opportunity of 14th five-year plan. This outline and the long-range objectives has shown our policy orientation of a future opening of reform and opening up and socio-economic development. It also shows a very good future for us to realize the second centennial goal. This outline and implementation will further push forward high-quality development of our economy and to stabilize the global economy further. Now the world is seeing a change that has never seen for 100 years. There were three aspects of trend and momentum that needs our attention. First, the priority of a global economy has been moving eastern, and also there is a rise of the south and decrease of the north. Second is the rapid development of science and technology. It is both an opportunity and a challenge. Human life has been faced with increasing uncertainties. Third, COVID-19 has brought unprecedented damages that are never seen before, whether it be Cold War or hot wars. So we should reflect upon and explore this important cause and the important topic of the common and shared human unity. And China, in these great changes, is showing a strong resilience and strength culturally and institutionally. We have rapidly controlled the epidemic. Our economy is increasing and is growing against the trend and is showing a very strong momentum. Our whole economy is full of morale. More and more countries emphasize on further collaboration with China. And the UN Conference on Trade and Development has shown new report on the global innovation trend monitor shows that the FDI has decreased by 42% to 859 trillion US dollars, but China's indicator has grown by 4% against the trend. The total volume reached 163 trillion US dollars and has surpassed the US's 134 trillion US dollar for the first time. It has been the country to attract the most amount of FDI and has realized three elevations in terms of volume, growth rate, and ratio globally.
Hong Kong has the unique advantage of one country, two systems, and it has the mainland market to back it up. And it has an intimate connection with various global markets. And when the country is implementing the 14th five-year plan and the 2033 long-range targets, we must be able to do a lot. So the most important thing right now is to be confident. And you have to believe in yourself, believe in Hong Kong, and believe in the country. These three beliefs were first proposed by Chairman Xi on the 30th of June in year 2017 when he attended a special banquet in Hong Kong SAR. I think everybody still remembers it well. So these three beliefs that Xi Jinping has mentioned, my understanding is that these three beliefs mean that we have to establish cultural confidence and systematic confidence. Cultural confidence is the basis of our system confidence. And the system confidence is the direct result of cultural confidence. The Chinese people has 5,000 years of history. It nurtured us. It forged us into a great nation and a great people. We constantly strengthen ourselves. We are open and tolerant, and we progress with the times. That's in our cultural DNA, and that has inspired our people to make great contributions to humanity. And it also inspired us to stand up after falling down in order to make progress towards the great dream of great rejuvenation. In terms of the historical issues pertaining to Hong Kong and Macau, we adapted a embracing attitude in order for the peaceful return of those two regions to the nation. We have some technical issues. Please be patient. Could you hear us, Chairman Xu? Yes. Please continue. Thank you. So, we have contributed a lot to global peace and development. Under this context of unseen change over the past 100 years, we propose to establish a shared destiny for humanity under the principle of co-construction, co-building, and co-sharing. We have developed the Belt and Road Initiative strategy to provide Chinese wisdom to global development. Up to January this year, China has already signed 205 Belt and Road cooperative documents with 171 state, nations, and international organizations. In the year 2020, our country's trade volume with the Belt and Road nations has reached 1.35 trillion. And our non-financial investment into those countries have reached 17.79 billion. So this common destiny of humanity has received increasing amount of recognition, and the circle of friends in the Belt and Road initiatives is gradually growing. This exemplifies the Chinese culture of setting an example and thinking about the public good. It also explains that under the leadership of Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese people has used their hard work and wisdom to blaze a trail of Chinese characteristic socialist pathway to development, and this is the necessary path in order to achieve the great rejuvenation of the Chinese people. It is a glorious path to victory. Let us go back to Hong Kong. Ever since the establishment of the new China in 70 years ago, especially in the past 40 years of opening up and reform, the Hong Kong people and its brethren in the mainland has joined forces and worked together. And that has constantly moved us and inspired us. We see Shenzhen has changed from a small fishing village to a modern metropolis with technology and innovation at its heart. And Hong Kong has gradually become a more powerful and more active international finance and trading center. How could we not stand in awe of Chinese wisdom? How could we not believe that one country, two systems is the best arrangement for Hong Kong's long-term prosperity and stability? This type of great success is we should treasure it. It is not easy to come by, and this good paradigm should not be destroyed. Ever since last year, the central government has implemented a Hong Kong national security law in order to improve the Hong Kong's election system. In order to, that is because we want to eliminate the external forces' influences and its interference, so that Hong Kong sticks to the path of one country, two systems. Hong Kong's general public supports the Chinese government's actions. This is where the people's hearts are, and this is the general trend. But some people say that what the Chinese government does is actually silencing opposition, is one step backwards in terms of democracy. That is ridiculous. That is just pure nonsense. The fact of the matter is, one country, two systems has not changed. The basic law has not changed. And the Chinese government's support for Hong Kong to develop a democratic system which suits Hong Kong's actual needs has not changed. And our determination to finally achieve universal suffrage has not changed. And China's support for Hong Kong's development in national strategy has not changed. If anything needs to change, I think is that every person who participates in the implementation of one country, two systems, particularly the stakeholders who manage Hong Kong, they have to understand profoundly the entire contents of one country, two systems. They have to understand what Deng Xiaoping has said 37 years ago, saying that we have to believe that Hong Kong's Chinese people could administer Hong Kong properly. We should be brave and take responsibility and take action to make Hong Kong a better place. When Hong Kong is sharing the dividends of national development, we must also protect state sovereignty and security. To those people who do not want to see Hong Kong thrive, in the end, they will see that their shenanigans cannot stop Hong Kong to make progress on the grand path of one country, two systems. As for those who are hesitant and doubtful, we are patient and we have the time to let them make their observations. We just hope that they could follow the trend and not be abandoned by it. Fellow guests, fellow friends, Hong Kong could achieve a greater development by integrating into the state's development paradigm. And the most important thing is to participate in the establishment and construction of the GBA area. This is not just something theoretical. This has been proven to actually work. In the recent few years, with much support from the central government, through the hard work of HKSAR government and the relevant mainland governments, and our pioneers from the industry, they keep blazing new trails. Hong Kong has actually obtained a lot of concrete progress in terms of participating in the construction of GBA, mainly divided into three areas. Firstly, is the gradual formulation of the planning and policy structure. Ever since in the year 2019, the outline development plan for the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau GBA area has been officially published. The relevant types of policy papers have been published constantly. There are about 260 just in 2019 alone. 40 of those were published by central government and state ministers. And at the Guangdong province level, there is 34 living papers. It involves construction of basic infrastructure and interconnectivity to create an environment for business, to develop industry, and the policies pertaining to people who live in mainland China who are from Hong Kong and Macau. In year 2020, in order to further facilitate the development, we have further released even different policy papers which support the development of the business in medicine, in legal, and in finance. They have published the opinion on financially supporting GBA area, the Hong Kong legal practitioners, how could they practice in GBA areas in 9 cities, and how could they obtain legal practice licenses in mainland China, and also the drugs and medical equipment monitoring scheme for GBA area. Right now, all these papers have covered various aspects and in terms of both short-term, middle-term, and long-term planning, and the basic policy structure has been formed. And all these details could be found on our website. We welcome you all to look it up on our website. Secondly, accelerate the connectivity of basic infrastructure. In terms of hardware, the Hong Kong Macau Zhuhai Bridge, the Guangdong Shenzhen Hong Kong high-speed rail, and the Nansha Bridge have been established and they are in use right now. And the new Hengqin and Lianqiang and Xiangyuan ports have also been in use. The Shenzhen Zhongshan path and the underwater tunnel, the Huangmao tunnel, and the Shenzhen Maoning high-speed rail, and also the third phase of Guangzhou Baiyun airport's construction has all started well underway. And the Huanggang port has also seen a lot of renovations. And in terms of software, the Shenzhen Bay 24-hour and co-location policies have all been released. And there's also the single e-lock scheme. And we have achieved breakthroughs in terms of both linking up the systems and the rules. In terms of medicine, the Hong Kong University's Shenzhen School of Medicine has achieved a lot of breakthroughs in many aspects. For example, the medical school has already achieved the mutual recognition of electronic patient records throughout Hong Kong and mainland Chinese region, so that the Hong Kong residents living in Guangdong, they could have medical services and regular checkups, especially for senior citizens. And some of these Hong Kong doctors, they had practiced their craft in Shenzhen as well, and they are gradually being merged into the mainland's medical technical system. Apart from that, there are two key problems which have troubled the collaboration between Hong Kong and mainland China. In other words, drugs registered in Hong Kong cannot be used in mainland, and the mainland's hospitals' standards do not match with international standards. Some of those problems have already been solved. In November of year 2020, the State Department have developed this new development plans for drugs and medical equipment in the GBA area. And this year, in 20th of February, the Shenzhen city has also released a relevant policy paper pertaining to the medical services across borders. And right now, this approval process is almost at an end, and over 10 international new drugs will be used in Shenzhen very soon. At the same time, in the Greater Bay Area, we have also established a review and assessment center for Shenzhen hospitals in order to make sure that our standards for hospitals matches international standards, and in order that and also our methods of assessment will match up with international standards. In the area of education, we have a lot of results, achievements of our collaboration. The Hong Kong Chinese University Shenzhen is become a top university in mainland China, and the Hong Kong HKUST Guangzhou is well underway being constructed, and Hong Kong City University has built another school in Dongguan, and Hong Kong Open University in Zhaoxing, and Hong Kong Polytechnic University in Foshan has also plans to establish new collaborative schools. In terms of the financial area, the stock exchange has been increasingly connected across the borders, and our securities policies may be initiated in the latter half of this year. And also, we are gradually implementing cross-border financing arrangements. By the time these are all implemented, Hong Kong, Macau, and Chinese residents could spend their money however they like within those 9 cities and participate and sell financial products. In the legal arena, a lot of these Hong Kong-based companies, they may choose to use Hong Kong law as the applicable law for civil and commercial contracts. And Hong Kong lawyers who obtain a license to practice in mainland, they may provide legal services in the Greater Bay Area. And these rules will cover the entirety of the Greater Bay Area in the future. In other words, Hong Kong's participation into the GBA is accelerating, even though there are a lot of problems, but we can solve them. On behalf of the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, have 3 pieces of advice. Number 1, to strengthen the top-tier design and the implementation. The GBA's advantage is in one country, two system, and the key to solving many key problems is also one country, two systems. So this involves many different levels of authoritative agencies. In particularly, the Hong Kong SAR has its own unique economic system and its own judiciary system. This is a very complex affair. And because of that, top-tier design is very important. Right now, all of these different institutions cannot truly coordinate with each other, and they cannot truly implement policies, and they cannot truly synchronize the promotion of those policies across mainland China and Hong Kong and Macau. We must solve those obstacles, and we must match the different rules, and we must connect the different systems in order to solve these key problems, in order to clearly specify the decision-making process and implementing strategies and mechanisms. Secondly, we must formulate a sphere of influence through the construction of important key areas. And the important part of the GBA area is in making use of one country, two systems.
So it's very necessary to have some pilot studies on the reform. In 2019, the Bay Area outline has said that we should put forward the important platform development of Shenzhen, Qianhai, Nansha of Guangzhou, and Zhuhai, Hengqin, and these and other areas. And now we have these 14th five-year plan outline, and it has further included these Bay Areas into the important collaborative platform of Hong Kong, Macau, and the Bay Area. We should attach great importance to the build-up of these collaborative platform and to clear the obstacles institutionally and systematically, and to have innovations in the establishment of guidance and principles and policies to copy the successful experience and to lead the full cooperation of the Greater Bay Area. Third, we should emphasize on breakthroughs in the top priority areas. The outline has emphasized that we should support the Greater Bay Area to establish the International Innovation Center. This is one of the key tasks of Greater Bay Area development. Hong Kong enjoys advantages in finance, technological R&D, and logistics services, and has a lot to do in the innovation of science technology from 0 to 1, and also it has a role to play in the collaborative cooperation on the whole chain development. Should integrate the different forces of production, academic, and research. It should play the role of the National Laboratory of Hong Kong and Macau area, support various talents to innovate and to go on entrepreneurship. This is not only a need for Hong Kong's self-development, but also will play a very important role for other cities like Macau, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou. So we should improve the efficiency of growth, and also to change the development mode and optimize the economic structure to realize high quality development. This is also very important, and we should also have some good experience to explore in terms of intellectual property rights, the technology standard, environment standard, investment protection, and investment trade. So these are some of my personal opinions and suggestions. Thank you all. Thank you, President Xu. And finally, let's invite Vice President of the Renmin University of China, Professor Liu Yuanchun. His topic is Key Opportunities for Hong Kong under the New Development Paradigm of China. Okay, thank you. Distinguished, the Honorable Mr. C.Y. Liang, distinguished guests, I'm very happy to participate in the seminar. The previous speakers have already given their high quality and insights in the 14th five-year plan. So I will not just repeat what they have said. So one of the things that I want to emphasize is that apart from knowing the content of the outline and the long-range objectives, we should also make a comparison against the 13th five-year plan, and also some major innovation and new paradigm development. So we can see that in the outline, there were 10 aspects that we should pay attention to. Is that the first is that it is the first time that we make a detailed measurements of the modernization of a socialism, of socialistic country. The second is that we put an innovation-driven development in the core position. It has been put on this very core strategic position. The third is that we also put the physical economy, especially manufacturing industry, as the core of the industries. The fourth that is that we have listed a strategic orientation and give a very detailed illustration of the new development stage, new development philosophy, and a new paradigm. Fifth, we have put digitalization in the content. Six, strategically put urban revitalization and new modernization. Seventh, 60 into the carbon emission action plans. Eighth, the comprehensive development of human. 9, realize common prosperity and to optimize the income allocation structure. 10th is also repeatedly emphasized by the previous experts. We emphasize on security, and we used two compilation to emphasize on the issue of security. So, what content are directly related to Hong Kong? So under the 14th five-year plan, in the Article 18, under the Chapter 61, there is a specific chapter to talk about Hong Kong and Macau. The first that we should rule Hong Kong and Macau according to law, under rule of law, and safeguard constitution basic law under the constitutional order of the SAR. And the second aspect is to support Hong Kong and Macau to intensify and consolidate its competitive advantages, support Hong Kong to improve its international hub position as the international financial center, shipping center, trade center, and also emphasize on its building up of the International Innovation Center, Distribute Settlement Center, IP Regional Trade Center, and also support the Hong Kong services industry to high-end and high-value-added direction, and also enhance its cultural exchanges. The third is support Hong Kong and Macau to further integrate into the national development paradigm. So these, the construction of the comprehensive and modern economic system, Hong Kong and Macau should be more actively participate in this whole process. The landscape, the deployment of the Greater Bay Area should be emphasized. Just now, Chairman Xu has emphasized on this and elaborated on that. And how we compare with the 13th five-year plan in the past 5 years. During our planning, what is the planning for Hong Kong? What is the positioning of Hong Kong? And what is the difference between the positioning of Hong Kong in the 14th five-year plan? Is there any new notions? So we can see some new notions. There were several key areas. First, the 13th five-year plan is support Hong Kong for technology innovation, but in 14th FYP, this philosophy of support has been uplifted to the establishment of International Innovation and Technology Center. So this is not simply a policy support, but also construction of several important platforms, especially the 4 platforms of in the Greater Bay Area. I also see that these platform construction of Luo Ma Chou, River Bay Area, and use as the venue of the Hong Kong and Shenzhen Innovation and Science Park. And the second the priority area is to intensify the regional IP trading center. So this is compared with the traditional positioning of the three centers, it's actually a further expansion. The third one is to intensify its position as the international cultural exchange center. So these deepening or these intensification in the 14 FYP, we can see a very important bridge, that is the further development of the Greater Bay Area. The Greater Bay Area is a very important bridge to connect all of these aspects. And what's more important, under 14 FYP, we stand in a new threshold of development to construct a new development paradigm based on the new development philosophy. So we have some new philosophies of development under the new strategic time. And for Hong Kong, it's for its financial, cultural, or trade, or commercial development, it has a series of bearings. So we can see an important aspect. Hong Kong as a hub, or the connecting point between mainland China and also the international market. So this is a traditional positioning. Actually, it has to be further developed into an integration into the internal circulation of mainland China. It should participate in the dual circulation system of China, and to further enhance its hub position internationally. So this is actually a springboard role. But it is not only simply a springboard role or the connection role. Under the 14th five-year plan, it actually has some new meaning. So it has to be fully integrated into the internal circulation system of mainland China and become a core hub of international circulation and domestic circulation. I think this is a very important deepening and also a transition from the 13th five-year plan. The second is the post-epidemic era, especially under the new change that is unseen for 100 years. We should have some new adaptations to these new changes, new change to the new globalization and also the new Chinese economic circle and the Asia-Pacific economic circle. There should be some marginal adjustment and strategic reconstructing of the new positioning. We have seen a series of changes in recent years, but with the acceleration of these brand new changes internationally, whether we can come up with the new changes and have a early or proactive deployment, this is a very important aspect. The third one is the positioning of science and technology and innovation. There's a transition from internationalization and high-end development of education to the physical economy and science and technology innovation system.
In other words, in terms of this innovation hub for technology, there should be in the areas of value chain, supply chain, and manufacturing chain. These several chains should positively interplay with each other in the ecosystem, which has positive impacts on each of those aspects. So these traditional ways of understanding these chains may not be sufficient to lead us towards new developments under the new trends of technologies and to help us face those new challenges. And just now on this point, just like what Wang Zhigang and Xu Ze has mentioned, it's about the International Innovative Hub is a very important part of the GBA area's development plan. And when we talk about the readjustment of Hong Kong strategically, that's also important. And we see here that actually Hong Kong has a lot of advantages when it comes to technological innovation. Mainly, it's the advantages in education and basic research. So in the top 100 QS schools, 5 Hong Kong schools have entered the top 100. So their sort of basic research and innovation must be very good. And in terms of finance, legal, city environment, and tax, they have a super advantage as well. And thirdly, in the past 5-6 years, the Hong Kong SAR government has already started a new strategy when it comes to technological innovation, and they established the Innovation and Technology Bureau in year 2015. So the obvious point where this thing changed was in year 2012. Back then, Mr. C.Y. Leung, who was the chief executive back then, he proposed to establish such a bureau. And in 2015, the bureau was actually established. And in year 2017, the Hong Kong-Shenzhen area has reached a memorandum of joint development of the Luomazhou area. And in year 2018, Xi Jinping, party chairman, had written to all the deans of those schools and to propose for establishment of an international innovative technology center. And on 8 areas, the Hong Kong SAR government has pushed for innovative development to increase the amount of funding they have to gather, congregate these technological talents, and to provide funding and for infrastructure and basic research, and to review existing laws and to open up government data. And we can see in the recent years, all these strategies has achieved a lot. And be it in terms of input and output, there's a lot of increase. And in various platforms, there are these revolutionary new changes appearing as well. And most importantly, it's in the area of green finance and financial technology, fintech. There's also a lot of breakthroughs in those areas as well. But these areas of developments, just like what we've said before, is it sufficient to embrace the new direction of development, the new paradigm known as double circulation that China is espousing? Is it enough to face this context of unseen change in 100 years? Is it able to face those challenges? Could it really absorb the impacts on Hong Kong's traditional standing due to technology? I think there are still several shortfalls on that front. The first shortfall is that there's no product chain to support innovative technology. So there are a lot of ideas and theories, but there are no actual application scenarios for that technology. So we can see that Hong Kong has great universities, but they do not have places like Stanford universities where they could truly nurture an entire new area of innovation. And more importantly, in terms of the new paradigm establishing a new paradigm, we need new strategies. We need better basic research, but the basic research has not established a complete chain of research. In other words, theoretical innovation, technological innovation, industry innovation, and market innovation. There's no such chain. And also, we can see that the teachers are treated very well here, but researchers are not treated very well. Research is a very costly affair. People are talking about this. How come Hong Kong never truly became a technological hub? And a lot of people's research suggests that actually it's because of the great bubble we have in the real estate. The cost of living is very high. That, of course, is one of the reasons. But more importantly, I think, firstly, it's the strategical thinking. And the other thing is, in terms of the top-level design, there are problems with the planning itself, because in the area of technological research, we cannot solely rely on market forces. If we do so, then it will definitely face a series of major problems when it enters the market. That's why it needs the government's intervention. And number 4, we can see that the expenditure for technological research is insufficient. In year 2018, the HKSAR government's expenditure for technological research accounts for 0.85% of total GDP. So the entire output is just roughly 25.4 billion Hong Kong dollars. I think people would know at the same time, Shenzhen's expenditure is 100 billion. It's actually 4 times compared with Hong Kong's input. So Shenzhen's research budget is 4.2% of its GDP. So here we see that Hong Kong not only is not putting enough into its research, and it also exhibits structural problems. Because over the past few years, in the area of higher education and government expenditure, actually that accounts for 60% of their finances. And as for the market share is only 40% compared to the public sector's share of 60%. If you contrast that with Shenzhen, the expenditure for corporations in Shenzhen accounts for 97% of the total expenditure. So these factors led to the fact that in year 2019, Hong Kong ranked number 3 in total competitiveness in indicators. This is very good. But in terms of innovation, Hong Kong ranks quite low in 26. So these few points fully illustrates that technology, in terms of technology, both its planning, its platform, its structure, and its funding exhibits a lot of problems. And with regard to these few problems, for the next step, if we want to truly implement ourselves, integrate ourselves into part of the self-resilient technological platform of mainland China, and to integrate Hong Kong into the new paradigm of double circulation, I think constructing an international technological innovation center requires several breakthroughs. Firstly, we must create a new structure of innovative chains. Starting from the top-level design, we have to replan everything. And one of the very important parts of the plan is not to simply rely on the mainland and facing the international market. More importantly, you must integrate yourself into the mainland and face the world that way. I think that is a very important part of the strategical thinking. As for the innovative lane and the value chain, which should be combined with the industry chains. And that requires us to make full use of the super huge market we have in mainland China. And China has this strategy of becoming a great innovation technological nation with self-resilient technology. We must merge into that platform as well. And also, I think Hong Kong, in terms of nurturing top-tier talent, Hong Kong has some advantages. It could be a place where top-tier talents for technology and other disciplines congregate together. And there must be a new way and new ideas for nurturing top-tier talent in this globalized context. Thirdly, I think Hong Kong should focus on developing technological trade and international property trade. Hong Kong should become an international property trade center and international property trading center. And Hong Kong has its unique advantages, legally speaking, and it has its advantages in terms of financing. And also, number 4, we should proactively obtain mainland research funding and cooperate with international research. So it becomes a midway point for the entirety of Chinese research. And and Hong Kong should integrate itself into the greater context of the entire state's plan for research and innovation. And also, we must offer comprehensive support to the platforms we are building right now. We must inspire changes by way of solving problems. That's the new paradigm we must adapt to. And on that front, we must strengthen the research into management of relevant platforms and to host relevant exchanges of ideas. That's a very important part of the work. And that's also a very important angle we must adopt in the coming development. So that's what I have to share with everybody here today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Professor Liu. Once again, we would like to thank all the guests for their brilliant sharing and insights. Now we move on to the panel discussion. Let us listen to the guests, both online and offline, on how Hong Kong should seize the opportunity of the 14th Five-Year Plan. Next, I hand the floor over to the Honorable Mr. Leung Chen-ying. Thank you. So, after the in-depth, insightful sharing from our guests, now we move on to panel discussion. In the discussion on our panel, we have four people online and 3 people offline. No matter both online and offline, I want you to actively participate in the discussion. So firstly, I have Professor Ni. Thank you. A lot of our guests talked about the 14th Five-Year Plan, particularly Mr. Hu Zucai. He says that the world is changing and technology innovation is a must. And Mr. Wang Zhigang has also detailed out the technological development and its path, and to talk about how Hong Kong could integrate itself into the state's own planning for innovation. And a lot of top subjects have already covered by our guests. And mainly, innovation and technology is about having the right people. People and talents are the primary resource of innovation. So I want to say 3 things. Firstly, does Hong Kong have a good soil for nurturing these technological talents? I think Hong Kong should take pride in the fact that they have a lot of high-ranking universities. This has also something to do with the establishment of HKUST 30 years ago, because the establishment of UST has facilitated the competition of Hong Kong universities. So a lot of international scholars have moved to Hong Kong. So I thank the Hong Kong government for promoting the development of Hong Kong universities. And we have also gained the support from internationally renowned scholars. And there are a lot of internationally renowned scholars coming here to Hong Kong to teach, and they have taught a lot of talented graduates. But have these talented people actually created more value for Hong Kong? Let me give you an example. 10 years ago, the top graduates in Hong Kong, they would all move overseas to do their PhD degrees. And over the past few years, a lot of people want to innovate. They want to start up a new company. But in the end, they all move back to the mainland for that. That's the first point. Secondly, we have also a lot of brilliant PhD candidates. Our PhD candidates go to Australia, go to Singapore, and go to mainland schools. Even Europe and American universities would like to have our PhD candidates. Hong Kong's market is just smaller. Thirdly, over the past many years, our university have produced a lot of brilliant scholars. A lot of them are young teachers. They come to our schools and become deans. Every time I see these teachers becoming deans, I'm both happy and worried. The happy thing is, oh, they are famous now. And the worry is, oh, they will leave. They will go elsewhere because they have pay more, they have better conditions.
And they have been living in bigger houses, and they have also enjoy greater and bigger science and technological platform. So for Hong Kong, they can nurture top-tier scientific and technological talents. And but Hong Kong also is relatively small. But Greater Bay Area will provide with a new opportunity. So Hong Kong must further integrate into Greater Bay Area to play a bigger role for the science and technology talents. Many years ago, when the science and technology scholars visit in Hong Kong, actually they look up to us. They know their rules and they have a lot of published papers. And Hong Kong also enjoy very good facilities and laboratories. But 20 years later, actually we should look up to the mainland counterparts because they have catch up already. So actually it seems that we don't have the enough sufficient capital because mainland really develops so fast and rapidly. So for science and technology development, it needs a soil and environment. It needs a supply chain, value chain, and also the further integration of internationally and domestically. So science and technology development needs an ecosystem. So we should further consider how Hong Kong can play in this regard. The experts have said that during the 14th five-year plan, we will build up an international innovation center. Hong Kong's role in the basic research area, actually, to conduct a basic research area, basic research. Actually, this requires a big amount of investment and funding. So what is the advantage of Hong Kong? What is the benefits for Hong Kong? This is only one way. For Hong Kong, if it wants to further integrate into Greater Bay Area, it needs a mutually beneficial development. So how can we do that? Just now, Professor Liu mentioned some shortcomings and also some suggestions. I would also want to put forward some suggestions. I think at least Hong Kong have this taxation benefit, but we will no longer enjoy the taxation benefits anymore. So what is our advantages? Talents. Actually, the education of children is very important. So how can whether Hong Kong can provide more premium and good quality early childhood education and also AI. AI is a very important area. It's based on big data and also advanced algorithm and algorithm power. And so in terms of calculation power, actually Hong Kong doesn't enjoy any advantages. Only mainland has the calculation power. These should also be supported by government. The Henshen laboratory in Shenzhen is also doing this. And actually, 30 years ago, Hong Kong University is the only area in Hong Kong to design their chip, Huawei Haishi, and they are all our students. But equipment of 30 years ago is already lagging behind now. And the Hong Kong SAR government has given me a lot of funding, but after 30 years, we don't have any funding to catch up. And the mainland Chinese counterparts have already caught us up. So, and the country encourage Hong Kong universities to open branches in Greater Bay Area. Just now, Professor Liu also mentioned that. We also hope that students of both sides can further exchanges and do internship on the two sides. I don't know. I'm not sure about the foreign universities' intention to open branches in mainland China. But for Hong Kong, our purpose is very clear. We want to nurture more talents. We hope that the nation will give more space for Hong Kong universities to open branches in mainland China, because we enjoy a competitive advantage. We also hope that our expertise will be brought to mainland China to nurture more talents. We look forward to closer collaboration, further exchanges. So the two sides will both put inside the financial resources. Hong Kong is not short of money, so we should also And for the mutual beneficiation, the education, and a series of other things are also very important. To build up the international innovation center, R&D is not the only thing. We should also need to nurture the top-tier engineers in chip design and other designing, whether we can give them the support to retain these talents in Hong Kong. Shenzhen has put forward some convenience policies. I think Hong Kong should also have the planning so that we can have a more balanced ecosystem to compete. And for the application institution, I want to introduce more. Many of my students and colleagues are in this institute. They also have some very good R&D results, but all these results are contributing to Hong Kong. Actually, we may have to jump out of the box. We know that some of the business operation cannot be successful in the system, so we encourage them to go out of Hong Kong to participate in the development of GBA. It actually is beneficial for Hong Kong in the ultimate end. And finally, just now, Minister Wang also proposed that the basis of R&D and scientific innovation is actually on the innovation of systems. Hong Kong is not short of good planning, but the implementation power and the governance ability is not up to date. We should simplify the administration procedure. We should find a good balancing point. Hong Kong UST, we have a branch in Guangzhou, and 55 buildings will have to be built up in 45 days. It is actually not realistic in Hong Kong. But in Guangzhou, we have seen more than 100 people participating in quality control. And for Shenzhen, Hengsheng laboratory, they also have this brain server, and only in 9 months the whole building was built up. But in Hong Kong, Hong Kong, we have 20 centers. I cannot operate in 1 year. Actually, we have a lot of approval system, and these no, that no. So we have to wait a long time in Hong Kong. So these administrative efficiency needs and must be improved. And Hong Kong SAR government has that they will put 2 billion Hong Kong dollars to attract talents to Hong Kong. I haven't seen the detailed plan yet. I know the traditional way of Hong Kong. The university will nominate some worldly renowned experts, and then the government will approve. Maybe, I think, you cannot hire them in the end. I think this is the wrong way. Hong Kong as a government should believe in the Hong Kong universities, because we are worldly top universities. Recruitment of teachers, actually we know better than you. So please trust us. Give us more efficiency and shorter time. We don't want to wait for the Hong Kong government to get the approval, because we are top-ranking universities. We know how to do good education and to recruit the top-tier teachers. So, Hong Kong is a very good project. We hope that our results will be implemented. And during the process, the approval system, actually there is some problem. We must need the international universities experts to participate. Actually, to get Hong Kong, we must invite the foreign experts. Actually, it is we that do all these work, but we don't need the experts to do evaluation. Why not we invite the mainland experts? Actually, they are very competitive, and they are no less worse than us. So government should be confident in our university and in our own talents. We have the 5-year plan for science and technology development, how we should establish the International Innovation Center, how we should proceed. I think we should uplift Hong Kong to be an irreplaceable position. Thank you. Professor Ni actually has made all the problems very, very accurate. We have our Hong Kong as a colony for 155 years. It must have left some print of old colony. So about the problem of brain drain, the talents that we have nurtured go to foreign countries and other areas. But what's more worrisome is that some better and younger science talents transfer their industry. So what they learn actually is not what they do in the end. Actually, this is a great loss, because once they transfer to the industry, their track, it is not reversible. So how can we retain these talents in Hong Kong, but also retain in the science and technology industry is more important. And apart from that, Professor Ni also mentioned some shortcomings of Hong Kong, especially Professor Liu also mentioned during my tenancy as a chief executive, I proposed establishment of the Innovation Bureau. It lasted a very long time, because once I proposed that we should establish an innovation bureau, actually during the legislative council actually said no. They just shut down this notion. So 2 years has passed when the notion is finally put into implementation. Because today, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress has put forward, has just endorsed a new election system. So we should no longer have an irresponsible legislative council, because we paid a great price for such institutions. So we have to draw upon our lessons and also have a refreshed new movement in the future. So any opinions from online? Of online speakers, you can raise your hand if you want to say anything. Yeah, Professor Wang. To save time, I think as a Hong Konger, it's important to understand this important national planning. Actually, it may be they're not accustomed to this, because the nation used to have a lot of plannings. But what's new in 14th Five-Year Plan is that it is connected to the long-range objective through the year 2035. It is unprecedented in the 11th, 12th, or 13th Five-Year Plan. So what is not a custom for the Hong Kong people is that the 14th Five-Year Plan is connected to the national economy. They think that the Hong Kong is being planned. But actually, the 14th Five-Year Plan and the long-range objective has difference that has a point that is consistent with the global trend. This 10 carbon summit and the carbon emission goal. Maybe some of you don't know about the 30 and 60 goal. This is the carbon emission goal. It has to be reached in 12 years, in 15 years time, and also like EU and USA, we need to reach the carbon emission goal by 2050.
What does this mean? Europe has this phase called backcasting. In other words, it requires that today we must compensate for our future generation, so that the future generation will not be troubled by the environment. So this is something that China has been doing as well. And in terms of this 2035 long-range goals, under those laws and rules, well, something that Mr. Yang has mentioned is very important, is that be it in the GBA area or be it in the Yangtze River area. All these key economic areas will see population increase. So in terms of the planning of the Guangdong province, in the future 20 years, the number of population would increase by 10 to 20 million. Right now, this Greater Bay Area has close to 70 million people. In other words, it has a larger population size than UK and France. So if we have 20 million people more, we would reach 90 million people. That's the range of our population. And within that range, what we know now is that Hong Kong people, we feel that Hong Kong is the most densely populated on earth, but actually nowadays Shenzhen has exceeded Hong Kong in that regard. And Shenzhen's density has gone beyond Tokyo's density. So on the one hand, we have to reduce carbon emissions, and on the other hand, we have to increase our competitiveness and our productivity. That's a very difficult mission. And at the same time, it's also a very important business opportunity for Hong Kong. In the next decade or two of this nation's development, the average GDP of our region should reach the level of advanced nations. In other words, our GDP per capita and our level of consumption should reach the current levels we have in Hong Kong. So under that context, and in addition, there are restrictions on carbon emissions as well. We need to do a lot of things in order to make sure our region is more sustainable. So I think here there are two things that we must bear in mind. Firstly, there will be more ingress and egress of population, because in a population of 10 to 20 million people who goes in and out, assuming all the Greater Bay Area, they spend the same amount of resources that Hong Kong people do now, then the amount of resources we must consume would increase. What would that bring forth? That would mean a lot more ships, a lot of vehicles, a lot of people, and a lot of airplanes moving around. So I want to talk about this today. The main reason is because we have 3 airports right now: Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and Guangzhou. All of these 3 airports are building a 3rd runway. And all of these 3 airports have reached 60 million to 80 million strong, like that level of people coming in and out. After all 3 of them build a 3rd runway, that number may change to 100 million per airport. And in Foshan, there would be a 4th major airport. Right now, the planning is well underway. And in the future 10 years, this airport will cater to 30 million people, and almost later on 60 million people. So let us just factor in all these 4 major airports, right? Every day there would be around 6,000 airplanes landing on those airports. So every day we would have a lot of airplanes on top of our heads. What does that mean? If those airplanes just fly around on top of us for 10 minutes, they would create a lot of air pollution. It doesn't take a long time. We have a lot of air pollution problems. A lot of the times in Hong Kong, we either sit here waiting for the airplane, or we fly up to the airplace, and we spend a lot of time doing all of that. That is because we have a very packed airspace. So just now, as Mr. Yang has mentioned, we must solve these invisible bottleneck problems. This is precisely a bottleneck problem: our airspace management. Looking back, in year 2015, Mr. Zhang Weiliang, who was the Minister for Economy in Hong Kong, the Secretary for Economy in Hong Kong, he mentioned one thing, is that when people asked about airspace, he's saying that we are negotiating this matter with mainland China to resolve them, and we will propose proposals to solve this problem by year 2020 and implement them. I don't know if those plans are drafted yet. I have never heard from them since. But what I have heard is that there's a plan to integrate airspace management across the entire Greater Bay Area. In other words, all of these airplanes and all of these airports in the region would integrate their management in order to increase efficiency and coordinate with each other. This is a great piece of news, but we are still waiting for its actual implementation. And one of the very important impacts of the pandemic is all the airplanes are grounded. This may be the best time to solve this issue. The average citizen may not know, but the Hong Kong airplanes use the British system, while the mainland airplanes use the metric system. So even within the same management center, it's very difficult to have a uniform management across the Greater Bay Area because you can't even have a common language when it comes to describing the altitude of airplanes. This is not something we could solve alone in Hong Kong. It's not something that Guangdong could solve alone themselves. We need help from the central government on the state level. And you have heard from Mr. Xu, we have a lot of progress on a lot of very promising fronts. But on this front, we must have progress as well. And progress on this front is very significant when it comes to environmental friendliness and whether we could achieve carbon neutrality by year 2050. So basically, these new airports cannot do anything new, but we keep on adding new airplanes. We know by now that a lot of these new commerce modes are e-commerce, and all e-commerce flies in the skies. And because they use air freight, so there's a lot of demand for air freight as well. And once the pandemic subsides, everybody will want to fly away and go to a foreign country. So we would see a V-shaped rebound. So this third one-way is too late, because back then we thought the SARS would decrease the demand for future aviation, but that was not the case. Right now, this was not what will happen. Globally, when everybody starts flying, then we will no longer have our chance to make those changes. And why are those changes important? It's not just for the sake of Greater Bay Area. In Beijing, in Tianjin, in Shanghai, in Suzhou, in Hangzhou, they all face the same problem, an airspace congestion problem. Why? Because in Chinese airspace, a lot of it is managed by the military. Only 30% of our airspace is for civilian use. This is something that has to be solved by the central government. We need to expand the amount of airspace available for civilian use. This is not something that we could solve by waggling tongues here and now. This is a very important thing. This needs to be solved from an economic perspective or ecosystem perspective. Yes. So Mr. Wang has just reminded us that the 14th five-year plan is not just about economy. It cares about climate change. It cares about the environment. People who care about climate change, we have addressed that as well. So we also have Mr. Charles Lee here. Well, there are a lot of parts about financial planning in the 14th five-year plan. So we want to hear from you on your view. Could you hear me? You guys can hear me. I'm talking. Could you hear me? Yes, we hear you. Please go ahead. Thank you. I want to quickly talk about something that we have touched upon before. When we are talking about the 14th five-year plan, Hong Kong is quickly entering this new mode, new system. Because in Hong Kong, when we talk about the 14th five-year plan, just now we have touched upon this as well. This is a very timely topic. The government should lead the way and to coordinate and to plan for China's development. And that is the natural path of progression of things. To Hong Kong, Hong Kong's taxation system, it doesn't have estate tax, it doesn't have inheritance tax. So it's often very difficult to talk about Hong Kong's issues in detail. because Hong Kong's development has achieved a certain height already. So right now, it is very difficult to increase the capacity, and it's very difficult to build up capacity. So Hong Kong's problems are more complex. And it's only about 1,000 kilometers square large in size, and there's only a few million population. So it cannot really, it cannot become a leading force in a grander scheme of things in terms of state economy planning. So what we want to talk about here often would not inspire confidence in the Hong Kong people. But if we do it right, there's nothing we should feel confident. If we do it wrongly, then there would be no hope. What do I mean? We have to properly understand that Hong Kong, in the entire 14th Fifth-Year Plan and all of interaction with mainland China and its development, Hong Kong used to be 30 years ago 27% of China's GDP. By now, it's only 2% of China's GDP. We must understand Hong Kong's physical influence on China's actual economical development is rather limited. Even if Hong Kong uses all its strength, we cannot solve China's problems, and China cannot solve its problems. So its physical influence on China is rather limited. But its chemical influence is huge. Hong Kong's direct influence on mainland's development is limited because, after all, Hong Kong is a small place. But in terms of China's position and standing in the global development, it has a lot of influence that could be converted. In other words, quantitatively, our influence is small, but qualitatively, our influence is large. That's why we shouldn't just focus on the direct physical influence. We should look at because if we look at that side of things, Hong Kong is too small. We will lose confidence. But we look at the chemistry, we look at the issues of interconnectivity in terms of our systems and our contributions to China and influences to China, including both positive and negative influences. That's huge. That's why Hong Kong has to implement one country, two systems. And recently, we have tried to finally update the one country part of one country, two systems. We have finally mended that loophole. Therefore, on the issue of one country, we could safely proceed. So when one country is totally protected and safe, when it has stable politics, then Hong Kong has two parts, has a lot of significant contribution it could make to China. Its chemical reactions, its systematic influence are huge. That's why we have to keep integrating with the GBA. We must make use of the opportunities provided to us by the 14th Five-Year Plan. And apart from that constituting a drive for us to change ourselves, more importantly, we must not forget our core functionality, our core competence. Especially in the 14th Five-Year Plan, there are two areas where Hong Kong is very significant. Firstly, it's finance. Secondly, it's technology. In terms of finance, we must clearly understand that from the most basic point of view, the most important significance of Hong Kong is to mainland China is its finance development, its renminbi development. From A to Z, the most important thing is really the common law. Hong Kong has common law and mainland has continental law. The global finance markets all operate on common law instead of continental law. So all of these most successful financial centers, UK, US, Singapore, Hong Kong, all of these jurisdictions have common law. Therefore, in continental law, well, I'm not just talking about mainland China, I also include Germany, France, and Japan. In terms of finance, finance is better suited to common law and less suited for continental law. In common law, whatever money wants to do, it gets to do. It's clear, it's concise, whether it's clear whether it's legal or not. In other jurisdictions, when the question of legality is not as clear, it's difficult for money to flow freely.
So, under the common law, all the taboos will be in the blacklist. So you don't have to do anything listed in the blacklist. So that would be clear for the financial system to operate. So that means the Hong Kong financial system has a very vast advantage to connect to the international system. That is the lifeline of the Hong Kong financial system. So no matter what kind of a problem it may pose to, no matter what kind of a connection you want to have with the mainland financial system, you have to go through the Hong Kong financial system first. So that is what we always keep in mind. How can we make a bigger role in this regard? How to better integrate into science and technology integration and innovation. And it is also the same philosophy applied to science and technology. Every aspect of Hong Kong, like education or life spending, all these factors will not make Hong Kong a cluster of talents of science and technology for mainland and around the world. But it's possible for us, for Hong Kong, to play its institutional advantage to not only an advantage but a difference institutionally. To play a role in science and technology. Actually, there are only three parts in regard: people, money, and rules. The rules about intellectual property, whether it can be connected to the international intellectual property system, and for the human resources, and not necessarily have that they should stay in Hong Kong. But how can the rules protect the market and also protect the institution? The mechanism, what about the dispute settlement system, the arbitration system? All these systems under the IP system can be better positioned and play a bigger role. Through Hong Kong, it can be further expanded and radiated to the science and technology centers in mainland China, so that the capital resources and human resources can be made to the best role, so that our own innovations and creations can be connected in Hong Kong with the international creation and innovation. And Hong Kong as a hub of finance and the money and human resources, we can provide opportunity for the opening up of science and technology and innovation. We can play this chemical role. We can be interconnected center and hub. Okay, that's all I want to say. Thank you. Apart from finance sector, trade is also a very important sector for Hong Kong, GDP-wise. Trade and logistics is the largest contribution proportion for economy in Hong Kong. And in the 14th five-year plan, there's also content to further improve Hong Kong's international trade center. So we have invited the former Deputy Executive Director of Hong Kong Trade Development Council, Mr. Yip, to talk about the trade development of Hong Kong. Yes, we will transfer Hong Kong's the hub to interconnective connectivity center. So this is a keyword. And another keyword is the circulation, the dual circulations and mutually promoting each other. I think this mutually promoting notion is very important because the internal circulation and the international circulation are actually two different systems. The features and the scale and the complexity of the two systems are different. The two systems are not independent by themselves. So to connect these two systems, we have to connect these two systems to make them mutually beneficial to each other. So just now, Chairman also said that Hong Kong is a world-scale trading center, and we are ranked the 8th as the World Trading Center globally. Our foreign trade volume is 3 times of our GDP. And we have a very great offshore trade in the year 2018. It is equivalent to our transfer, about 70% of our transfer trade. So our offshore and offshore trade and onshore trade are both important. So Hong Kong can play a role as the connector of the internal circulation and the international circulation, connecting the two circulations. Hong Kong, just now, Director Hu from NDRC also said that Hong Kong should play a role in the dual circulation and can import premium products from abroad. Hong Kong can play a part in this regard. We should use a GBA as an entry point to introduce the premium and high quality products or services from abroad to mainland China, and to participate more into the internal circulation development, including production, allocation, and delivery, and a series of other services. In the past few decades, Hong Kong has accumulated rich experience in this regard. We are the largest foreign investor. Actually, more than 50% of investment is through Hong Kong. So I think Hong Kong will play a very important role of a connector. We will further discuss on this role and see how Hong Kong can play its advantage to serve the nation. Yes, Hong Kong trade. Actually, these two words may have a different meanings as internationally or in Hong Kong. Actually, what we buy is not needed by Hong Kong, and what we sell in Hong Kong is actually not produced in Hong Kong. This is a very interesting phenomenon. So this is a very special trade function of Hong Kong. We are a little bit running out of time, and we are overrun of time. So now the host to conclude. Thank you all, the distinguished guests, for your discussions. I think we have a very fruitful time during this seminar. So for Q&A session, before you raise your questions, please also name your organization's name. You can raise your question in Putonghua, Cantonese, or English. I'm from Hun Media. I want to ask Mr. C.Y. Liang. Actually, for Hong Kong people, we don't know much about the 14th Five-Year Plan. So how can you let the young people know more about the 14th Five-Year Plan, and what benefits for the young people? Actually, the main purpose of this seminar is through these interpretation and explanation of experts, we raise our attention about 14th Five-Year Plan. This is a continuous work, and we really thank the media friends to participate in this seminar and to also spread the voice. We will continue to pay our efforts, and also under the cooperation with the Hong Kong Coalition and the Work Point Country to Systems Research Institute, we will further develop. Okay, the last question. I also want to ask Siwei Liang. I'm from Hong Kong 01. We don't want to the Legislative Council to be irresponsible anymore. So, do you think that the Democratic Party they will be stopped from the Legislative Council for the new electoral reform? Will the Democratic Party enter into the Legislative Council? Will there be some barriers for them to enter? And also another question is actually, the deputy vice chairman of CPPCC will act as the person in charge of the electoral council. Actually, for your second question, I haven't received any information, so I will not. I'm not in the power to answer that question. And for this legislative council, we have seen this filibuster action and their damaging actions in the legislative council. I will reiterate what I said previously. To have a new start and to stop what they did in the past and have a new start. Okay, thank you all. We will come Mr. Siwei Liang to have a concluding remark. In November and December of 2018, President Xi Jinping in Beijing have met the people from all circles of life in Hong Kong and Macau. This is their welcome dinner, and in this event, he have recognized Hong Kong's contribution to the nation's reform and opening up. He also said that for Hong Kong and Macau, he has raised four hopes. The first is to more proactively integrate into the national development. And during in the 14th Five-Year Plan about the Hong Kong chapter, there is the saying, support Hong Kong and Macau to enhance its competitive advantage, to integrate into the national development paradigm. And to reach that end, we should know the national development policy more clearly. We should spread it in the whole society and to share with more people and public. And we have invited all these experts to talk about. And these notion is a very scientific and approach. And we should have clear indicators and objectives. And in the chapter of the 14th Five-Year Plan, there's a very specific content about Hong Kong's role. We should believe in the system, believe in the country, and make a very good start in the 14th Five-Year Plan. So this seminar is the first step for us to embark on the new journey. Looking ahead, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things to do about the implementation. There was something that we can do and worth doing. We need to do more study, research, and to do field work. Nowadays, China is a country that will, if we say we must make it into action, and the actions must have results. So this is a very concrete opportunity for all of us. We welcome all of you to continue to pay attention to the 14th Five-Year Plan and the national development and contribute your due share to Hong Kong and the national development. Today's seminar is a complete success. It is a very meaningful sharing of all thoughts and suggestions. We really appreciate your insights and your sharing. We also we would like to appreciate more than the audience. A lot of audiences, more than 500,000 people attended to our seminar. Thank you all. Thank you, Vice Chairman Siwei Liang. Distinguished guests, that's the end of our seminar. And we will also release the important video clips of our seminar on the media channels online. Thank you all for your participation.